I had started to wanting to pursue opening up my recovery high school. And my passion is with teens, super passionate about helping teens. And we ended up transitioning into adolescence. I'm like, I couldn't have been at picked a better company because they told me after I was already starting to work on my recovery high school, hey, we're transitioning into adolescence. Now, mind you, I hadn't worked with, I had before with some sober companion stuff, but not like to the level I'm working with them now. So I felt like, gosh, the Lord is like preparing me for my recovery high because now it's a completely different ballgame working with kids. One, not just because you're working with the kids, but also you're now working with families.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of I Love Being Sober, sponsored by Camelback Recovery, Arizona's preferred mental health and addiction treatment program to help people on their path to recovery. Today, I'm here with someone that's in recovery, and I'm super excited for this show because we're going to talk about her journey, and she's got some amazing things that she's working on, be it a recovery high school. She's done lots of things. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read her bio. Today, I'm here with Alejandra Gastelum, and for the last 4 years, Alejandra has been working in the behavioral health field as a recovery coach specialist, a sober companion, a certified peer support specialist, a case manager, and she's currently the community liaison for Turning Point Healing Centers, an adolescent residential treatment facility. Through her long-term recovery and sobriety, Alejandra has not only found purpose in her life helping others on their unique journey in recovery, but is very passionate about helping others achieve long-term sobriety. Alejandra, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Tim.
Hey, I'm so grateful that you're here.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, so let's dive right in.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about you. Like, where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I'm from Los Angeles, born and raised in Pasadena, California.
Okay.
We talked about this, the shoes, right? I know you were like, let's talk about your shoes.
I want to talk about the shoes.
Okay. Well, so
but we'll get there.
Okay. So I grew up in Pasadena. I have 3 siblings, had a great upbringing. I can't, complain about. There's a lot of trauma in my childhood, but that wasn't reflected from my parents. My parents were great, if that makes sense. So
now so 3 siblings, where were you in the mix?
I'm the youngest. I'm the baby.
Okay.
I'm the baby. So I'm daddy's girl.
Okay.
I'm daddy's little girl.
You're the little brat.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And so your trauma, and when did you realize that you had trauma from growing up?
So am I supposed to be specific?
You can answer the question however you like.
Oh, okay. Well, I went through child molestation when I was young. My parents did not know about it until I was like 28. I told them.
Wow.
So there's a lot of shame and things that go through, come with something like that. For God, I don't know what reason you wouldn't tell your parents. So I went through that. And then in early teens, I also went through a couple rapes. So those things were really just kind of set a tone for what was going to happen later, with the addiction and things like that. So but you don't realize it.
Yeah. How old were you when you were molested?
Probably 5 to 8.
Did anybody know about it?
No.
Wow. Who was it?
He's long gone, but he was my great grandfather.
Okay.
Very old.
Wow. Okay. And then do you think that led to the rape, or how old were you when you were raped?
This was way later. This was
well, I'm just talking about subconsciously, because your subconscious mind, you've got that trauma.
I don't know how that all works together, but I've heard that women who've been raped have typically been molested as a child, which is so weird to me. But these are completely it wasn't like family members. This was just completely random kind of things, like party type scenes.
Right.
Yeah. So those were when I was early 20s.
Okay. And then was there, so let's go back to the drinking and the drug use. When did you start? Like when did you have your first drink or your first drug?
So I never used drugs. I mean, I tried weed, hated it, gave me so much anxiety, but so I wasn't an alcoholic, but in high school, but I was a good kid in high school. I was a star soccer player, star athlete.
Okay.
So I really, it was like the weekend parties and things like that. So I didn't see that I really had a problem until when I was shoe designing. But if I look back, I'm like, okay, this is going on for a longer time. So I always held on to a job all throughout my 20s and on the weekends. I lived obviously in LA, so it was Hollywood lifestyle, going to the parties on the weekends, hanging out with celebrities, things like that. So, it was just like a normal kind of, I guess I was a normie then, but I didn't.
So when you first started, like, how old were you when you had your first drink?
Oh gosh, maybe it was probably my freshman year.
Okay.
Yeah, of high school.
And then it wasn't a problem. It was just you were like everybody else. Okay.
Yeah.
When did you first realize it might be a problem?
Probably. Well, it had been a problem, but when I realized it in 2000. I went to treatment in 2019, so probably 2017 when I was like, I have a problem. Yeah. But when I look back, I realized how much I was drinking. I mean, I had started drinking on a daily basis. I mean, when you live in Hollywood and you work in that industry, it's like everybody, when you go to lunch, you're going to lunch and you're having drinks there. Then you're going out to parties at nighttime. That's your networking, to go and meet for drinks.
Everybody's drinking.
Yeah. Everybody's drinking all the time. So it's kind of hard to get away from, right? And in the middle of the day, because most people if you're working in the Hollywood industry, they don't have a 9 to 5.
Right.
So it's like easy for them to be able to do something like that. So I didn't really, like I said, didn't realize it until it was a daily thing and it actually started affecting me and the way I was working. So I was functioning for a long time until I was non-functioning.
Right. Now, so you became a shoe designer.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So I was working in TV production, and one day I just decided that I wanted to start doing shoes. God knows, I don't know why. I had a dream about some crazy shoes, and I started sketching them out. I told my parents, this is when I was 32. Yeah. So I'm leaving a good paid position. I'm working at a TV production company, doing, movies and reality TV shows and things like that. And I tell them, hey, I'm going to go become a shoe designer. I knew nobody in the fashion industry, and I knew everybody in the music industry, but not the fashion industry. So I ended up telling my parents, and I did it very quickly. I was off to move to Milan, Italy, to the top shoe design school in the world. Moved there, went to shoe design school, came back to LA, started my shoe brand, and it took off really, really quickly. I was one of those, I don't like to say luck because I don't think anything is luck, but I was blessed to have it. I went from a multi-million-dollar company in just like a year and a half, and I was everywhere.
Wow. Okay, so what inspired you to want to go to Italy?
Well, the top shoe design school in the world is there. Yeah.
And so it was just like before you had anything, before you had any experience with shoes, you decided to spend all this money to go to Italy to this school. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's what you do. You go to school, right? If you want to do something, you got to go to school. So I went to go learn how to be a shoe designer, how to design and things like that. And it was an incredible program, and I got to live in Milan. Yeah. It was great.
And how long was school?
I was there for 6 months.
Okay. And then you come back to LA and then what?
It just took off. I created my first collection, and my shoes were really, really unique. So it really stood me out amongst a lot of other designers. It wasn't like you can just go find. I was crazy with colors and patterns and things like that. So I blew up really quickly. I was winning, awards. In the 10 years that I did shoes, I've been in thousands and thousands of magazines. I've won awards myself for designing.
What kind of shoes did you
Women's
design?
Heels. Women's heels,
Okay.
I never got to sneakers. I was planning on doing that, but never got to it. But yeah, it was a great ride. But at the end of the day, it was when you're in that Hollywood industry, it becomes. I was very spiritually dead. I had a lot around me, money, hanging with the top A-listers and all that type of stuff. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm on top of the world, right? Until you find yourself, why am I drinking so much? What am I self-medicating from, right? So that's kind of
how did you feel spiritually at that time?
Dead.
Okay.
I grew up a Christian, but there's a difference between a relationship and being a believer. Like I didn't have like a relationship. I just like if somebody said, "Oh, do you believe in Jesus?" Yeah, I do. But it wasn't like a relationship. So money was money and just my little fame that I had. It was just baby fame. But those type of things mattered to me the most. It was my identity, you know? So everything else was just kind of just spiritually dead.
Yeah. And then so when did the drinking finally escalate to a point? When did you realize you had a problem and you needed to do something about it?
So 2017 and 18 were pretty bad, but 2019 was like the worst. Like I stopped going into, so I ended up like becoming non-functioning. Like I was drinking day in and day out, living in my pajamas. I was not going into my office. I wasn't doing anything for my company, all on the brand, Alejandra G. I was spending more money on paying employees and things like that than the money I was bringing in.
Okay.
And so it was a constant calling 911. I was having severe panic attacks, anxiety attacks from the drinking. I was just very sick. I was very, very sick. And my parents had kept mentioning, they never pushed it, but they kept mentioning, don't you think you need some help? And so finally one day I just got on my knees and prayed. I thought I was going to die, and I had that moment with God. And the next day I started calling around Arizona for treatment. And I wanted to get out of California. I needed to get away from my environment.
Yeah.
And so I started calling around. I found a treatment center and I was here in 4 days, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. Yeah. Okay. And then, so now you went to treatment and then what happened? Were you sober? Was like that it?
Yeah, I was a one-timer.
Oh, you were a one-timer.
Yeah.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
There are not many one-timers out there.
Yeah.
So am I.
Well, then there's another one.
Yeah. There's not many people that get sober on their first time. Why do you think you were able to get sober your first time and stay sober?
I will give all the glory to Christ.
Okay.
All the glory to God. Absolutely. Because I had been trying to get sober for probably like a year. I was doing everything from yoga to every type of thing I could possibly think of that would help like mentally. I was trying, and it wasn't until that full surrender. And literally he took that craving, that phenomenon of that craving away in one day. Wow. I never had a craving. I never had a craving since. So, I think one time, but it was a sugar craving and when I was in treatment, because I remember calling my sponsor like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm having my first craving." And she goes, "It's just sugar." She's like, "Go get some Sour Patch Kids and eat them." It worked.
Yeah. No, I remember when I first got sober, it was cake, pie, ice cream, gummy bears, Jolly Ranchers. Like that was I probably gained 20 pounds my first few months after I got sober because I was eating all kinds of junk food.
That's funny that you gained weight. You either gain or you lose when you get sober, or you gain and you lose when you're in your addiction. Right. I was 200 pounds when I went to, and I told you this when I saw it. I was 200 pounds when I went to treatment. So I'm typically, it's not like a huge difference because I'm typically about 155.
Okay.
So I lost
that.
That
is a huge difference. That's like 30% more.
Yeah. So
I can even tell a difference if I'm like 5 pounds heavier today. So it's kind of a lot.
But I didn't look like, if you looked at me, you wouldn't say like she's like a big girl. It was all spread out.
So it's where you carried it. Okay. So you get sober, and then why do you think you're able to stay sober?
The same. There's a bunch of different reasons.
Because you say there's God's will. It's like, hey, I agree with you. Like God is my higher power, and I believe that everything happens according to God's will.
Right.
I surrender. I take suggestions. I'm not in control, and knowing that I'm not in control really helps me stay on the path.
Right.
Because otherwise, when I'm trying to take my will back and I try to be in control, then that's when I'm spun out.
Right.
That's when I'm restless, irritable, discontent. When I've got these expectations and I want things to happen the way that I want them to happen. But if I surrender and I realize that God's in control, things are much easier.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, the thing is it's, it's a combination because starting to work in recovery, that is a big big thing that has helped me stay sober, you know, is to give back. It's almost like people are looking up to you to be, you know, to hold yourself accountable, to show them like, hey, you know, you can stay sober. So it was that. I mean, when I decided to stay in Arizona, not go back to LA, I mean, it was fighting with my flesh. Like, I'm going to leave a company that I grew from the ground up. I mean, literally Forbes magazine, when they did this article on me, it says the shoe designer who built her company from the ground up. I built that baby from the ground up. A lot of work. And, you know, and then of course making a lot of money. So it was like, I'm going to leave. I don't have a regular college degree. You know, I'm going to leave behind, one, hometown, two, this career, and come to work in behavioral health and make $18.25 an hour as a case manager. I mean, as a BHT, you know, but I did. And I found myself the more happier than I had ever been throughout my entire, you know, career of being a shoe designer. I would rather be sitting in front of somebody dealing with addiction than sitting at lunch having a drink with a celebrity. Absolutely, any day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I went to this event, and one of the questions he asked the facilitator, his name's Michael Burnoff, and he's been sober I think since like 2018 as well. He says, "What do you want?" And, you know, there's like 350 people in this room, and people are like, yeah, I want a number 10 relationship. I want a job making $100,000 a year. I want, like, people want all these things. And really, I'm sitting there thinking, really, the reason why people want those things is because they think they will make them happy.
Right.
So that's it. You know, I want this new car. I want this big house. I want this number 10 relationship. I want all these things, but all of these things I want only because I think they're going to bring happiness.
Right.
But at the end of the day, really, what's going to make me happy? And I can tell you, when I first got clean and sober, my first 5 years were a grind. I was not like it was a grind. I was going to lots of meetings. I was going to 1 or 2 meetings a day. I was sponsoring lots of people. I was connected, doing lots of service work. And I was happy, man. I was having a good time. I mean, my bank account was pretty was pretty abysmal. I mean, my first 5 years: separation, divorce, bankruptcy. I lost my real estate license. I lost my company. I short sold. I mean, it was like a freaking disaster. I was happy. I was showing up as a happy person. I mean, I cried a lot at meetings in front of people. I learned how to be vulnerable.
Absolutely.
Every time I went through one of those issues. So what was it like for you the first year?
The first year
because
was good.
You had to have lots of things going on in your mind.
Yeah, no, the first year was, I mean, to be honest with you, I went straight into COVID. COVID came right. I mean, because I was in treatment September through October of 2019. So we're talking about COVID started in the top of 2020.
Yes.
Right.
March. March of
beginning
like
of
March 2020. Yeah, I remember because I was on a sober companion deal in the UK when COVID hit the world. It was crazy.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So it was, for me, it was. I just was stuck in the house at the time, but I didn't get triggered by that. I had a really good accountability partner, my ex, during that time, my ex-husband. And,
so were you married when you went to treatment?
No, I was not. I was married after treatment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, and he had years in sobriety. So I kind of piggybacked off of what he did, and he was very good in recovery and, working the program and all that stuff. So I had a great accountability partner for that, and good, during that time where we didn't kill each other during COVID, right?
Right.
Because a lot of people were like, either they're finding out they hate this person or they love him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a really good, solid first year. And then when COVID ended, then
what made you say you had a solid first year? What made it solid? I mean, I know you had your ex who was your accountability partner, but what made it solid? Like, what were the things that you did? So for the newcomers out there, listen to this, because this is what somebody did that was successful and is still here today.
Yeah. So first of all, it was kind of hard during COVID to even talk about my first year because I didn't do the meetings online. I mean, I don't feel the same with the meetings online, but to be honest with you, it's really self-care self-care. It's really about, I was working out daily, and I still do that to this day. I can literally feel a shift in my mental health when I don't work out. So I was working out daily, meditations, just doing a lot of self-care, reading books and things like that. There wasn't much for me to do, during that time, but me and my ex-husband, we kept, during COVID, we were, watching movies, or we were doing puzzles and things like that, but we kept ourselves busy, and we both love to cook. So we were cooking a lot, but it was just a lot of self-care. But if going into really where I started to really take care of myself and recovery was when, after COVID, when we started getting back out, when I started to work, my first job was at Springboard, where I actually graduated from rehab. Everybody always goes back. So, right. Working in recovery, and then starting to get active in meetings and just meeting people in the recovery world, having that peer support, you have to put in the work. I'm sorry. I mean, I still put in the work till this day, and I'm coming up on my sobriety date is September 12th, but it's work. But the easiest part about sobriety is when you work in recovery. I think that is one of the, for me at least, was one of the main reasons, other than my religion, but one of the main reasons that I was able to stay sober is just putting in the work with helping other people,
Right. Yeah. Getting out of myself, helping other people. And I can agree. I agree with you. And I also think it's like there's 4 levels of learning. And the first level is you read it, you listen. Level 2, you write it down. Level 3, you speak it back. Level 4 is you teach it. And I believe, so teaching it, level 4 learning is by sponsoring people. So if I'm in the program, I'm sponsoring people, I'm teaching, I'm seeing myself in other people. And really, I'm sponsoring people to stay sober myself. Like, I see myself in other people, and it's typically like, wow, God, that was me. I'm glad that's not me. Or, wow, that was me. Right. That used to be me. Right. And so there's different things that I see. And then also working in treatment. So treatment and recovery are different. I don't think it's, we're not necessarily working in recovery. And you can talk to, it depends on who you're talking to. I'm not going to be like, I don't really care what you call it, but treatment is different than recovery.
Right.
And working in treatment, you're right. It's just a higher level of accountability. A, I'm teaching, but B, like, everybody's looking at me, and I've got all these people that are relying on me. I'm the example. So if I'm going to help these people, I really got to walk the walk.
Absolutely.
I got to go to meetings. I got to sponsor people. I've got to do all of the things that I'm recommending. And that, I can't even tell you how much that's helped me. And I've got huge consequences if I end up relapsing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because people, come on, if Tim Westbrook relapses, we would all be like, what? I wouldn't have seen that coming.
Right.
So, what's funny is I've actually never sponsored anybody.
Okay.
I've never sponsored anybody. And just talking about the steps, there were 2 things that you made me think of also during that time when we were going through COVID is I did go, to get myself out, I called different treatment centers and, hey, do you need a speaker to come in? So I would go in there with mask and all, and go speak. So I did enjoy speaking and stuff, but I never actually sponsored. Well, I was about to sponsor a girl. I did for 2 days, but then I don't remember what happened. But it's been also with the steps. I was completing my steps during that COVID time too, which was life transforming for me, especially when I was making my amends. When you make out all your, so I was doing my amends during COVID. It was easy to get in contact with people because everybody was home.
Yeah, right.
But that was what a weight lifted. I don't care if, I think everybody literally in this world should do the 12 steps, as far as making the amends and doing things like that, because what a just weight lifted off of me to clean my side of the street with all these people that I had. I went all the way back to when I was a kid. I stole their little jacket when I was little.
Right.
I did everybody I could think of, but it was such an awesome just release and freedom. It felt free.
Yeah, it's everybody, whether they're an alcoholic or not, an addict or not, everybody has lied, cheated, or stolen something from somebody at some point. And it's like those are the things that creates wreckage.
Right.
And some of those things are big, some of them are
Right.
small. And it's not necessarily stealing someone's television, breaking into their house and stealing their television, but you can steal someone's time. You ghost on a relationship. You tell somebody you're going to be there and you don't show up. Like these are all the things that they're common to all of us.
Right. Right.
All of us do these things. And so learning how to truly go back, and it's not, and an apology and an amends are not the same thing. Making amends is truly making the repair, putting yourself in the other person's shoes as a receiver of that action, feeling what it was like to be them. And then how can I make it right?
Right. No, absolutely. I agree. It was literally my favorite step. I mean, it's the hardest step.
It's the hardest step.
But it teaches you so much humility and just being vulnerable and being able to, just come down to a place where you're like, okay, I'm not a perfect person. When I did my amends, or when I wrote out all my inventory that I needed to like amends to, I was like, damn, I wasn't as nice of a person as I thought I was,
Right.
Because you start to see your character defects and, the weight that you carried into these relationships that failed or anything that's just happened. You start to identify your part in it, So it was very powerful for me. And I wanted to comment on what you said about recovery and treatment. The reason I kind of use them interchangeably because for me, when I say I'm working in recovery, is because we're going back into these dark holes with these people. So I feel like, I am in that recovery with them, And treatment, yes, treatment is like the job, but the recovery is me daily working with people and being in that dark hole with them and helping them find that hope and that light and giving them the tools and resources to be able to, move forward. So that's why I kind of use them interchangeably.
There's a lot of people that use them interchangeably,
Right.
and I'm not a huge stickler on it. And I believe that working in treatment has helped my recovery.
Absolutely.
They're different. However, it's totally helped my recovery. I mean, I am where I am today, and a big part of it is because I get to work in treatment.
Yeah.
And seeing myself in other people has been huge. I mean, working in treatment, I get to see people, and it's like, wow, that was me. Like that was me when I was 13. That was me when I was in college. That was me when and so seeing people in a different place has been huge, and it's really helped me. So. Moving on, tell me what your life looks like today?
My life is amazing. I'm blessed. I'm working at Turning Point Healing Center, which is an adolescent residential treatment center.
Right.
And this is it's crazy because when I started working with them in January, so I had been a recovery coach for a couple of years, and that was like living with people.
Right.
You can get burnt out from that, having that to be in
24
your
hours a day.
bed. Yes, 24 hours a day.
These people are very sick.
Yes.
Right.
So after the recovery coaching, I was like, I'm going to get back into treatment and actually work somewhere. So I ended up coming across Turning Point. They were actually serving adults at the time. I had started wanting to pursue opening up my recovery high school. And my passion is with teens, super passionate about helping teens. And we ended up transitioning into adolescence. I'm like, I couldn't have been picked a better company because they told me after I was already starting to work on my recovery high school, hey, we're transitioning into adolescence. Now, mind you, I hadn't worked with, I had before with some sober companion stuff, but not like to the level I'm working with them now. So I felt like, gosh, the Lord is like preparing me for my recovery high because now it's a completely different ballgame working with kids. One, not just because you're working with the kids, but also you're now working with families and you're working with distressed parents that are calling, crying, trying to get their desperate to get their kids help, right? So it's a lot more weight on me, emotionally and mentally, but it is so worth it to see the kids thrive and the kids do well. So then I started working on my P.O.W.E.R Academy, and that stands for P.O.W.E.R is providing opportunities with education and recovery. I created that, and I've just been like a psycho woman getting out there. I've been taking so many meetings. I'm one of those people, just like when people told me I couldn't start my shoe company, they were like, how are you going to start a shoe company? I mean, that's competition worldwide. I mean, my brand was all over the world, and that's a lot harder than anything I could possibly do with, in the treatment world.
Do you think that people doubting whether or not you could do it, do you think that caused motivation
Absolutely.
Was
That always
that
puts
the
a fire.
fuel? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I know, like for you, I'm the same way. I just went to this trauma intensive a few weeks ago, and I realized, so I've got some triggers, and I realized my 12-year-old self, a lot of my behavior, I've got the same pattern. My pattern is humiliation, loneliness, anger, and originally in anger is also motivation.
Right.
So I use the anger, I use that as fuel for, like, I look at every single thing I've done. And so now I go through this trauma intensive, and now I'm uncovering, I'm processing this trauma. I'm feeling a lot better, and I'm like, I don't know, because I've had a lot of successes as a result of that anger.
Right.
So what am I going to use as fuel? So I don't know. What are your thoughts on?
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. The more somebody tells me I can't do it, I'm a go-getter. Anything that I set my mind to, my family knows. After I started Alejandra G and how I made that happen, I mean, they were shocked. So now anytime I say I'm going to start something, they believe it without a doubt. So when I told them, this is another big thing, like I call them, I'm like, I'm going to start a recovery high school. They didn't even question it. They said, you know what? If you say you're going to get it done, you're going to get it done. And I'm just, I think it's because my confidence, I call it Godfidence. Like I know every room that I step into, I walk in like God set me there. And so I don't have a fear of somebody telling me no. I just think it's okay. God closed that door for a reason. So my faith is really strong, but I am passionate. When I'm passionate about something, I get like this fire lit in me. And when somebody says, that's hard to do, or that's going to be hard to do, or whatever, that's just what even gets me to prove them wrong.
And okay, that's what I've learned about myself. That's a trauma response.
Oh.
It's a trauma response, because really I should be indifferent. Not should. I mean, yeah, it's like if I'm indifferent, it's not a trauma response. But because I get so fired up, and it's, I call it motivation, but really it's anger. And it's I'm furious, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to show these people, and I go out and I use that fuel to be successful,
to make it happen. Yeah. I don't feel angry though. Like
No,
to me, it's just like proving wrong.
Just to
I like
clarify,
to prove people wrong.
Well, just to clarify, I don't feel angry. I don't feel angry, but really underneath it, if you look at the feelings, the primary emotions, really what's under it, it's motivation. It looks like motivation. It looks like I'm just like, I'm going to go get it done. And work hard, play hard, and I'm going to get it done. And tell me I can't do it. You watch. And I go out and I make it happen. I'm not angry on the surface. People can't tell I'm angry, but underneath, if you go underneath, really it's anger.
Okay, got it. So you're talking about like the emotion chart.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that being something in there. But yeah, I mean, I like proving people wrong. Yeah.
There's something there. I mean, we're not going to get to it right now, but I would imagine, and I'm projecting obviously, because I found for me there was something underneath it.
Right.
And so I had to do my own work to figure that out. And so,
well, I had a lot of rejection. Like girls they never liked me in high school and junior high, because I always had the hottest boyfriend, in school. So the girls never liked me. So I dealt with a lot of rejection and a fear of rejection. So maybe that plays a piece into that. Like I don't want for people to say, "Oh, I told you so," like you couldn't do it, and that's maybe a form of like rejection in a way. I don't know. But regardless, whatever it is, thank you for all those doubters, because it makes me get things done.
Right.
I've moved so quickly on starting this recovery high school, and I'm so thrilled about it.
Why are you so passionate about helping kids?
Sometimes when we go thinking deeper, I think I'm trying to be the girl who I needed when I was a teenager to other kids.
Right.
And I feel mostly when I'm dealing with kids that they just really need people to listen and love them. And I love kids. Like every time, due to HIPAA, I can't go hug everybody, but I do when I walk into our treatment center. I just want to love them so much. I just want to hug them. And, I don't look at people. I look beneath the surface. Like obviously if they're self-medicating, they're causing them self-harm and things. It's just like, what happened to you? Like, I want to know what what went on that's making you have suicidal ideation or things like that. Like, and it just gives me the chills because I just feel so bad, like how, being so young and having so much, mental health problems, and if like I was telling our director of operations, I feel like kids are getting sicker and sicker and sicker, like mental health, So, I don't know, God puts a passion in us for a reason. And, everybody has a passion for something, mine just happens to be, I love working with adults too, but kids are like my babies. Like I just want like to love them, so yeah.
Okay. So tell me about this and going back to these kids, they all have their issues and really we have to look at the environment they grew up in. And even to adults too. Same thing. I mean, I've got some, I had like an issue with my family and I look at, my in-laws and I'm like, okay, I have to look at where they grew up. What was the environment that they were in? Because today, the reason they are who they are today is because of the environment they grew up in.
Right.
And so whatever environment somebody grows up in, that's why they are the way that they are. And I believe every single person, we're all doing the very best that we can with the tools that we've been given. Period. Like nobody shows up wanting to piss everybody off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what people do.
Maybe some people are.
Yeah, but then you look at their environment. Why?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what we do. You do ACEs test. You start to, when you look at the ACEs, like you're able to identify what happened.
What's an ACEs test?
The early herd, that was even a word, adverse child experience.
Okay.
So it's ACEs is to identify, like, it's like a 10 questions, and it identifies, like, if you've had parents that were using, did they go to prison? Were you molested? Did you have, so it really identifies when you're working even as adults, like how you were able to navigate life and relationships and your reactions to things. It starts as a child. Actually, it starts when you're in the belly. Your character is starting to develop, like who you're going to be while you're not even born yet. So as we do look at everything that has, what their environment was. How did their parents, treat them with love or whatever? But that really, that defines who they're going to be as adults.
Right.
So it's so important. Like when we look at kids, to understand when helping them is where they came from. Like you said, their environment, but it's tough.
So what's the purpose of the Recovery High School?
So I was waiting for you to ask that question. So there's 42 right now recovery high schools in the nation.
Okay.
And they are none in Arizona, none in California. God knows, I don't know why, because they literally statistically, it enhances graduation rates and abstinence. Their kids thrive, once they go through the program. And they don't always stay at the recovery high school through like their entire 4 years. Sometimes they do, sometimes they come in. It's an open enrollment. So kids are coming in and out throughout the entire school year after treatment or just finding out about it. And they want, they're struggling at home and they want to, or struggling at school and they want to, come to a recovery high school. But there are, just in Phoenix, there's 43,000 kids that are using. Those are the statistics. Just Phoenix, 43,000. We have the highest dropout rate, one of the highest dropout rates in the United States. 33% of our kids drop out.
Wow.
And what happens, this is not just, my goal with this school is to, one, enhance abstinence and graduation rates. But when we don't intervene, this is a societal impact. This is not just a family and that individual. This is an impact on society. If a kid does not graduate, drops out, the district, one, loses money for that seat. Two, they're more than likely to go to get incarcerated. There's 1.2 million juveniles right now that are incarcerated for some kind of drugs. Then they start committing crimes. Then because they did not get a diploma, they're not going to get a good, a higher paying job, things like that. Then they get on government assistance. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And the biggest problem is, Tim, why I'm opening this school is because there is no continuum of care for kids, right? With adults, we can transition back into life after we leave treatment. We go to sober livings. We have that transition. Guess what we do with kids? We're doing a disservice. We set them up for failure. We're sending them right back to the environment they got sick in, their high school. Within 30 days.
Back to their home and back to their high school.
Right, absolutely. So within 30 days, relapse. Within 6 months, they're back in treatment. These are statistics.
How many people, like percentage-wise, how many people are relapsed within 30 days?
90%.
Woo! Okay.
90%.
Okay.
Yeah. I've done such in-depth research about this because, as I started digging in, I knew that this was a huge problem, and these kids, every time I talk to a parent, they'll say they did treatment 2-3 times. The second, what happened when they started getting sick again? Went back to their school with their friends, that peer pressure, wanting to fit in, things like that. So the school we know that even for adults, we recover with our peers, right? That's one of the biggest things where people understand what you're going through. I isolated when I was in my addiction because nobody knew what I was going through, understood me. It wasn't until I came to treatment that I was like, wow, these are, they get me. They understand what I'm going through. Right. So this is not only the peer support that they're going to have there to support each other, but we're creating a loving environment with a small 10-to-1 teacher to student ratio, okay. To make sure that these kids' needs are met individually. So we don't see, max 70 students per at a time, but we'll see
in the high school.
Yes, but we'll see 200, probably 200 or more revolving throughout the year because we're going to say not every kid is going to stay. Some will stay 3 to 4 months, but the goal is to get them so the school runs like a normal high school. We just have recovery coaches and morning check-in. And at lunchtime, we have, certain things that we would run through, with whether it's prevention or whatever, curriculum or stuff like that. It's what they're going to do outside. They will not have homework. What they do outside is where the real work is done. So they'll be an IOP. They'll be doing like APGs.
Is it a requirement that they're in IOP while they're at the recovery high school?
Yes. Yes. Okay. And I've had this question like, well, what if they can't afford it? There's IOPs that take access. There's IOPs that take commercial. There's no reason. Now, if a kid cannot do it for some reason, it's not where I'm not going to turn somebody away. Do what I like them to do it? Absolutely. Because that's where they're going to get the most, support when it comes to learning about the addiction, right? We're there to create a safe, sober environment. Even we have sober prom called SPROM. We're taking them through the entire real high school, feel, but they're in a very loving, supportive environment where people understand what they're going through and are prepared to help them with what they're going through. And another awesome thing too is I'm going to be the first recovery high school to provide boarding. So these are my kids that need more accountability, or a lot of times, like you said earlier with the homes, they go at home, right? A lot of times it's the home. So that family dynamic with the family therapy, these are all like things that we are going to try to implement the family to work on, because you can't just treat, like when a kid is in treatment, the parents have to realize that they played a part in the reason their kid is there, and so it's a family disease. They call addiction a family disease for a reason. So we're trying to heal the family unit as well while they're in school. So it'll be nice to have them be able to board. Some parents, even when they call, they're looking for treatment. They're like, oh, you guys are only up to 60 days. I'm looking for 9 months. I'm looking for, longer term, because they can't deal with their kids. They have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Well, I think it's my experience. The longer someone stays connected to treatment, the higher the likelihood is that they're able to stay sober. And also it's what I'm hearing that you're creating. It's okay. My experience, everything has to change. New eating habits, new sleeping habits, new exercise habits. They pray and meditate, new friends, new hobbies, new interests. Like everything has to change. It's really hard to change everything. And so to just send someone to treatment for 30 days and then send them back home to their old environment with their same friends, their same school, their same, nothing's changed. There's no way they're going to stay sober.
What's the first thing we say in recovery? Avoid people, places, and things. Right. The kids are going right back to the people, places, and things that got them sick.
There's no way they're going to stay sober.
Yeah,
there's no way.
Absolutely.
So I love it. So who's eligible?
Anybody.
Okay.
I'm not, some schools they charge, it's a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit.
Yes.
Okay.
And some schools they do charge tuition. I am not going to charge tuition. I'm going to do everything I can that my babies, I call them my babies, can, go and thrive at.
So it'll be a private school.
Well, it's a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit,
well,
but it's
I'm
private.
not sure yet how that aspect is going to be because I'm working very closely with Phoenix Unified right now. So I'm meeting with them this month again. I've already met in front of the board, the superintendent. They love it. They know what's going on. They want it. They know what's going on within the schools, and they're constantly trying to come up with new interventions, new ways to combat what's going on with the addiction. It's not getting better, so we're not doing something right. We have to come up with something new that can help. And I visited other recovery schools. I just got back from a conference with the recovery high schools and colleges too that implement the CRPs, the collegiate recovery programs. ASU has one. I've been talking to them too about helping them just kind of get more things going there for that, because we want to be able to, when our kids graduate, we want them to be able to go off to one of the 152 colleges that have these CRPs so that they, hey, you can go to this college right here. They're going to continue to support your recovery. They have sober living there. They have this, they have that. So that's a big thing too. You don't just graduate high school and then the work is over. You got to continue, the work. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So So how long is someone typically going to stay with you?
It's up to them.
Okay.
I mean, it's freshman through senior year, so they can stay as long as they want. I mean, really,
You say up to 70 people in the entire school?
Yes, 70 students at one time, but there will be kids that will transition in and out. Most of the recovery schools can see anywhere. My mentor, she runs the largest recovery school in Houston, Texas, Archway Academy, and she gets in 200 students like throughout the year, right? But 70 max at one time. We have to keep the environment safe. You have too many kids, you start to lose that environment.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, because they are dealing, we want it very centered on their needs. And that way that our recovery coaches and the staff and stuff can really know what's going on with our students. One of the biggest reasons that they say that kids also drop out is because, or one of the reasons, I'm sorry, let me back that up. A reason that would help a kid not drop out is just takes one teacher that believes in them and actually knows them and knows what's going on in their life. You can't do that when you had a huge high school. Right. I mean, you don't even remember, maybe half their names, So with this, my goal is that we know these kids. Right. And we can tell immediately when they walk through that door if something's wrong, right. So we can support them and give them such a strong foundation in with resources and tools and, having them have a sponsor, going to youth AA group meetings that if they want to transition back into their high school, which they mostly do, that's what we want them to do, is to be able to have that strong foundation to go in there and be able to deal with peer pressure, be used to going to their meetings, know that, okay, shoot, I'm having this problem right now with, feeling that I want to use with my friends. Let me call my sponsor. So they will have a strong foundation in recovery before they go, because some kids are going to want to be able to get scholarships with sports and drama or things like that. We're not going to provide that. We're not going to have sports. We'll have physical education.
Right. That's right. So I was curious about that. So so the classrooms are 10 people, up to 10?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
10 students.
And so if someone's an avid football player, baseball player, soccer player, track star, like how are they going to get involved, or how are they going to stay involved with the sports that they love?
They won't be able to until they go back to their school.
Okay.
Yeah. There'll be physical education, like a Coach Carl. Like I'm thinking I'll probably have Coach Carl come in. Okay. But yeah, and I'll bring in yoga and things like that, spiritually fit yoga. But as far as that's not their focus there. Their focus is not, specific sports and things like that. We want to get them well so that they can go back to their school and continue on with their what they were doing.
Or they can
sports.
do club sports or something like that.
Or
right.
if they can do it on their weekends,
I'm just thinking, like, for me personally, getting involved in other activities was huge for me. It's like, cuz I'm a competitive person, and so for me to get into like running, biking, like all of the other things that I did really helped my sobriety.
Well, that's why we have physical education, but it just won't be specific sports like on a team is what I'm saying. Can we like have like soccer days or to, get them out and play? Yeah, absolutely. Okay. But they're not going to compete in with other schools or things like that. There is no team,
Right. Unless there's a way, I wonder if there's a way. There's got to be a way for you to let them be on another team I wonder if that would be a possibility. I don't know. So anyways.
I don't know. I'm not sure. But I mean, the goal is, you can't even, when I was talking about where the school location would be, we know that it cannot be like in another school. It defeats the purpose. Right. They have to be completely separated.
Separate. Right.
Yeah. So, just like at-risk schools, they don't have sports and things like that, so it's.
Where's it going to be located?
Phoenix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a location picked out?
No, I'm talking with Phoenix Unified about that.
And what type of what does the building look like, or what is the setup?
I don't know. Like? We haven't. I mean, I really need just 6 classrooms because it's 6. It's 10 per whatever, 10 to 70 students. So I just need 6 classrooms. Really,
7 classrooms.
Yeah. Is that you?
No.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I turned it off, but I have my family on what's it called, emergency.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. So yeah, like 6, 7 classrooms and a couple office spaces. So I don't need that big of a space. Okay. And I don't know what it's going to look like. But I told them too. In my mind, of course, I want this big, pretty school, and it's going to say P.O.W.E.R Academy across it, right? I don't care what it looks like as long as I get it started in the beginning. It can evolve to something like that. Yeah. But I want to just get it going because I know how badly this is needed for our kids.
Right. So I just watched, or I started watching the American Gladiators documentary, and do you know what I'm talking about? It's on Netflix. So do you remember the show American Gladiators?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So the way it started when they originally. When they originally started American Gladiators, they didn't know, the guy who had the idea, he had no clue. He didn't know anything. He just came up with this idea, American Gladiators. He didn't have any of the events. He didn't have, it sounded like in watching the documentary, it was a disaster. Like when they first got started, the guy that came up with the idea, the visionary, he had no clue. Nothing was set up, and he started getting these people involved, and he started getting the American Gladiators, and it was like there's going to be no pay and no this and no that. And originally he says, I'm going to make you guys rich, and so, but point being, he just had the idea.
Yeah.
And that's it. You don't need to know what it's going to look like.
Well, physically, I don't know what it's going to look like. Right. I know everything, every detail, how I'm going to run it. Right. Everything is completely clear to me. But what I don't care, it doesn't have to be perfect, the building. It doesn't have to be my perfect, what I envision. I just want to get it. I'm not doing this for money. Obviously, it's a nonprofit. I'm still going to continue working at Turning Point to keep my, my money coming in from there. I'm doing it because it's needed. So, however, I'm sure as it grows, if I may start with exactly what I wanted. I don't know. I mean, I got to talk with the Phoenix Unified C. But if not, I don't care. Like I told them, hey, let's just get it started. That's what matters to me is for these kids to come in and have, I already have kids waiting to come.
Right. When do you think you'll be open?
Hopefully this year. It was so funny when I was when the superintendent, she asked me, she said, so when do you want to open it? And I said, this year. She goes, whoa. She goes, it usually takes us a year to roll out a new program. And I said, we're getting it done this year. And she goes, okay, we can do it.
Okay. No
so
problem.
Hopefully by the end of this year. So it's moving very quickly. And it's once this next meeting that happens with the Phoenix Unified, it's going to just happen really quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're coming up to the end of the hour. Is there a question that you wanted me to ask you today?
No, not specific. We went over pretty much everything that means the most to me, as far as what I'm doing now with the school. I'm very involved in the community as well. I just got I just got appointed to the chair of, actually, I don't want to talk about that yet because it's actually officially going to happen on the 13th. But I am working with the Arizona PTA, and that's also because I want to be very involved in what's going on with the parents and the teachers and within the schools and stuff. So I got like a chair position for a pretty high thing, but I'll be able to talk about that later because that was a verbal appointing. The 13th I get actually appointed that, but it's going to, putting me behind that is going to be awesome because well, I'll just tell you, it's part of the health and safety for all the schools across Arizona. It's not a specific PTA. The Arizona PTA overlooks all of the PTAs across Arizona. So health and safety is the ones that like pretty much implement what the national PTA wants. And they want a lot of education, awareness, prevention brought in with with drugs and alcohol into schools, gun safety and things like that. So I'm going to have the authority to bring in like whether I want to do fairs, health fairs, things like that within the school all over Arizona. So I'm super excited.
That's amazing.
That.
Have you been in touch with Kristen Pollan over at Not My Kid?
Yes,
okay,
I have.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then are you guys going to be able to work together?
So I sat with one of my, honestly, who has been just amazing, has been Sean, for the CEO of the Meadows.
Okay.
He's been
Sean
awesome.
Walsh. Okay.
Yes. He has been amazing. We're going to have, the Meadows is going to help with a lot of
cool. And Sean Walsh and Kristen Pollan, they're good friends too.
Yes. So they, they've done fundraisers and stuff like that for Not My Kid as well. But Sean has been amazing. I met with Kristen. Of course, they go into schools. They work within schools. So they're there to provide resources. So of course, I'm going to be the resource that they let, schools know about. Yeah. So Not My Kid is amazing too. And there's a lot of community partners that are jumping on board. And I can't wait to start fundraising.
I think you may know this, but we're starting up an adolescent IOP program.
Oh, nice.
Did you know that? Okay. That's in the works.
Oh, awesome.
So,
well, it would only be next for you guys to do.
Right. So, I mean, there's such a huge need out there. There's such a huge need. So, so how can people learn more about you, more about the Recovery High School, for people that want more resources? Like, how can people learn more?
Nah, I don't know. I don't know right now.
How can they reach out to you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
On my Facebook, Alejandra Gastelum.
Okay.
That's good. You have to put it up on, type it up on the screen.
Okay. Do you have a URL for a website yet?
No. Well, I do, but it's not. It just says coming soon, but it's PowerAcademy-US.org.
PowerAcademy-US.org.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
But it says coming soon. Everybody is going to know about it once I have news stations that are ready to take it, interviews that are, it's the first in Arizona. So, a lot of people are just pretty excited about it. So everybody will know.
Yeah. That's
You'll be able to find me somewhere.
That's so awesome. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. That does it for our time with Alejandra Gastelum. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the very next episode of I Love Being Sober. And Alejandra, anything to say to our viewers?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Tim. I adore you and all the work that you do. And thank you for all that you do here in our community.
Thank you.
If you found this video to be of value, be sure to like it, subscribe to our channel if you want to see more videos, leave a comment if you have a question, if you've got something to say. Camelback Recovery provides treatment services for people struggling with mental health, mental illness, addiction, alcoholism. So if you or someone you know is struggling, be sure to reach out to us. You can go to our website, camelbackrecovery.com, or our information is in the comment section below. And we provide everything from detox, inpatient, outpatient treatment, sober living, recovery coaching, sober companion services. So either we'll be able to help you or we'll be able to refer you to people or treatment centers that might be a better fit. So I will see you in the next video.